well, I was gonna do it this week, but next week I'm doing like an apple juice detox. So while I was losing weight, I did a lot of really hardcore programs, um, like 3 days apple juice, no solids, followed by a detox cleansing, which would be like half olive oil, half lemon juice, like in a shot glass every 15 minutes for 2 hours, followed by Epsom salt, followed by a whole night's worth of diarrhea. And you'd lose like 10 pounds in one day or one night and then be sort of sick the next day, but then for a whole week you just didn't care about food. He died in July. I gained 30 pounds between November and February, and I was slowly gaining weight afterwards. I just like gorge myself out. That and all the beer. I was 18, like drinking like 30, 40 beers a week for 6 or 7 months. He got all these nose jobs done, which were excruciatingly painful and expensive.
How do you pay for?
And he like forged paycheck stubs to some place and got like $25,000 in loan. The first nose job was like $5,000. The second one was like $8,000 or more. And the first guy didn't even have a clue what he was doing. So he had this like monster, looked like Hannibal Lecter, bandage. The guy used too much anesthesia, so when it came time to piss, like 12 hours later, he couldn't pee. So at 2 in the morning, me and my girlfriend had to like drive him back over to the hospital to put a catheter in him because there was too much anesthesia that he couldn't pee. So his whole bladder was like filling up and it was extremely painful. For like 6 months, he had a bandage over his face. And they were like, there's blood coming out of his tear ducts. And he's like, if I don't get a nose job, I'm gonna die. If I don't have a perfect nose, I'm gonna die. And he's like, beautiful. We wanted to look like a girl. He said like if you had $80,000, you would have got like a sex change. Now knowing the things I know about Thailand, you could have gone to Thailand and got a sex change for like 10 or 20 grand. I don't know. If he was alive, I have no doubt he would be transsexual right now. Like he would change his private part. He'd be a girl. He went through a masculine phase and then a feminine phase, and I'm like very grounded. I like to be like not normal, but very like reasonable or unreasonable. But like I have plans and I get to those goals. He'd just come out with the craziest thing and be like, I have to get a nose job or I'm gonna die. He'd make it true. He'd expect all of us to come into that and support him, and we didn't.
Please select your method of payment. Please follow the instructions indicated on the pin pad. Don't forget to take your cash located next to the receipt printer. Don't forget to take your cash located next to the receipt printer.
I don't believe like intending to a grave. I don't know. I mean, I did this because I'm like, I'm gonna build my brother a house, and this is like the idea of a house. So it's just like a bunch of gray bricks. It was like 96 gray bricks, and like nine bags of white stone. And I'm really surprised all the stuff grew through it. On that day, like, we washed his body, so he had like Frankenstein stitches across his whole body, and I'm like, I don't need to see that. And yeah, they were moving his
arm and blood was coming out. And I didn't see him naked since he was like a little kid. I saw him naked and he had like lost color in his nose and his hands and his feet. And like he's not buried in a coffin. They have like a simple white linen sheet, and on the day of they put him in like a cardboard box. So then you take him out of the cardboard box and you hold him. You know, I was holding his feet, and then you just go into the ground and there's like all these 2x4s or a little bigger than that, planks of wood, and you put them underneath the plank of wood and put all the dirt on top. So it's very simple. It's probably like the cheapest, most affordable burial you could think of. And we washed his body a little bit, but I wasn't there for more than 2 or 3 minutes. And then the women aren't allowed to be on the burial ground. So like my mom was 100 yards away and my dad was right here, and I just sort of infuriated me, the whole thing. As long as my mom is alive, I don't care. Like, I'll have a Muslim funeral. But as soon as she passes, I'm going to change my will. Like, I don't want anyone I know to have a Muslim funeral.
কিছু দিছো ঈদে কোনো ঈদে মাম্মিকে
I didn't celebrate Eid in my heart, ever.
It's not celebration or what. It is like a Christmas, our Christmas.
Into like how we did it here, I never enjoyed really.
That is your problem. You not lot of
our
things you
problem.
don't want to
I'm
understand.
like, this last Eid, did we enjoy this last Eid?
That's the problem.
This last Eid we did we enjoy it? Halaglo. Saturday.
হ্যাঁ তুমি আসোনি আমিও করি
No, when I came in the morning, I went to the namaz, we went to a whole bunch of houses, we had a good time, right?
Yeah, we had good time.
The Eid before that was probably the worst Eid ever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
কিন্তু এটাই তো চাই সবাই লাইফটা কয়দিন 2 দিনের একটা ফ্যামিলির সঙ্গে থাকো আমরা ঈদে আমাদের বাবা মা যখন ঈদ করতাম আমরা খুশি করতাম কিন্তু তোমাদের জেনারেশন তোমরা জানি না মা বাবা যেটা সব যোগেই আজকে বুশটি চলতেছে ওর বাবা যেটা করতেছে ওটাই করতেছে ইভেন বুশ
I don't know about Bush.
everybody said they following parents
We aren't Bush, we're not the Bush family.
we are not Bush family but we are whatever we are a family
Oh, like when you love, you give all of your love, right? You don't worry about getting hurt.
আমি লাভ করে কি করলাম
কি হলো?
আমি লাভ করে একদম ট্রাস্ট করে কি হলাম
কি হলো?
এইজন্য বললাম
Ah, well, if that happens to
হলো
me,
না।
if it happens to me, it'll happen.
yeah happen এটাই বললাম
I can't, when that happens, it's gonna happen. I
আমি
can't
তো
worry about it.
ডেসপারেটলি বলছিলাম যে আমার হবে আমি ডেসপারেটলি আমি বলছিলাম হবে কিন্তু হলো
কি হলো?
আমার লাইফে কি হলো
Nah. But after that, you gave up. You didn't try again.
no it's gone
Well, you
he
could.
got married
It's been 12 years.
yeah he got married
But it's been 12
if someone
years.
get married
You didn't give yourself another chance.
হ্যাঁ
You didn't give yourself another chance.
আমি দেখি না এমন মানুষ কই দেখো
You're looking for him, you have to look for someone new.
আমি এমন কাউকে
I'm like, I've had my heart broken, everyone's had their heart broken.
হ্যাঁ।
But you move on.
হ্যাঁ এটাই তো তাই তো আমি তো আর অন্য ওই নেশা ছিল না আমার নেশা ছিল আমার 2 ছেলেকে মানুষ করব ওদের ভালো
Kintu,
education দেব
you had to find your happiness. You put too much on us. And now we're out, we're gone, and you have nothing.
His first attempt was in February, and like the suicide note was almost silly. Like he talked about his fish, and it was a valid attempt. He was at Georgia State, and normally I don't check my emails on Saturday mornings, but I was trying to buy a car, and I got this email that he basically attempted. So I drove down to Georgia State. I got to the door before the cops even got there. It took 20 minutes to get to Georgia State, but I was there before the cops were there. They found a key, opened the door, and there's like 10 of us that went inside. And I found him on the floor with the bag over his head. Actually, what he did is he mixed Valium and wine and put a plastic bag over his head and tied it so he'd suffocate to death. But like subconsciously or unconsciously, as the night progressed, he had managed to untie the bag somewhat and was able to breathe. And they said that he had taken enough that he would have died, but it would have been like a excruciatingly painful death. Like he would have been up for 14 to 18 hours and slowly pass away and moan and groan. And like I just came in, I'm like, is he breathing? Like, is he breathing? And I was just like, they're like, yeah, he's breathing. And I just sort of broke down and cried. And they took him to Grady Hospital. and just, they treated him like a patient and detoxed him. And I got to see, like, firsthand how he had hit rock bottom. Like, Ashik, what's the point in living? Why do I smile? Why do I go to work? What's the point of all this? What's the point? And it was just sort of why questions that you learn to stop asking after you turn 4. Like, or 7 or something. Somewhere in your life you learn to stop asking why and you just start doing. And he just kept asking why, and I didn't have answers. He couldn't stand being around my mom, so she was out in the waiting room, and I just sat there for 3 hours talking to him. And it was just crazy. It was like insane. It was just rough. The last time he went to a DoubleTree Hotel in Marietta, off close to Cobb Galleria Center, and wrote these 3 letters, listened to Nora Jones on this, went to Walmart, felt like a stereo, even gave them like a defunct credit card that he knew wasn't gonna pass. He took the same amount of Valium with the same amount of alcohol, but it was like one of these really nice hotel rooms where there's like a giant bathtub / sauna. So as he was laying there, like took the alcohol and the Valium, he probably passed out or fell asleep. And then as he fell asleep, his head just dipped underneath the water and he drowned. Like actually on the death certificate it says drowned. And then later on you see by suicide. So the Valium and the alcohol and then the water. So he just fell into the tub and his last breath was filled with water and that's how he died. And I was at the police station Thursday morning, and I went alone. I was 18, and they handed me these letters, which I went home and read. So basically, he wrote one for my dad, my mom, and for me. Dear Dad, I don't really know what to say to you. I never really had a chance to know you as a person. What I do know about you is that you are manipulative, greedy, and sad. I wish you could just open up your heart and see the beauty of the world around you. I wish you could see that money is not the root of all happiness, and most of all, I wish you could learn to be happy. During the time I was sick, you never once offered to pay for my hospital bills, and you never even asked me how I would afford my medication. If you really cared, you would have done more to make sure that I was well off, but you didn't. Dad, you have so much money, and yet you always complain that you never have enough. It seems that you have your priorities set in the wrong directions. I truly wish you weren't this way. Now that I am gone, I hope you will do the right thing and pay for the funeral. Mom doesn't make much money, and it would be a burden for her to take care of this financially. You are my dad. Please take care of all the funeral arrangements. This will be your last act of being a good father to me. If you do this, I will forgive you. I do love you, Dad. Hopefully, someday, you will open up your heart and see the world. And when this happens, I will be happy to greet you when it is your turn to pass. Remember, death is not the end. It is only the beginning of a new life. Sincerely, Fahim. So, I made a copy of all 3 of these, gave it to my dad. I think, like, his blood pressure and his went up through the roof. So when I heard that, like, that night after I gave him the letters, I think it was Thursday night, before the funeral, the funeral was on Friday. I just drove to his house and said hello to him and wanted to make sure he was okay. And he was just having trouble breathing. And I guess he was really happy that I came to visit him. So, it's been a few years, and it wasn't until about 2 months ago that my dad and I finally started talking. But, I think I understand now, like, where my dad is coming from. And we have, like, an awesome relationship. Every time I talk to him, I tell him I love him. And, it's still true, I can't ask him for money. But I can ask him for advice, and I can spend time with him. And he's pretty knowledgeable. Okay. So he wrote a letter for my mom. I don't know. Okay, so very different setting here. Dear Mother, of all the people in the household, I think you are the person who understood me the most, while at the same time you are the person who understood me the least. You made me grow up faster than I really wanted. You give me special attention. You looked out for me, and you always put me down for my beliefs. I wish you could have been more open-minded instead of being so traditional. I wish you could have accepted me for being the way I was. But I guess a parent suffers when they see that their child is living a lifestyle that seems so unforgiving. What can I say, Mom? I never chose to be the way I am. Just as you fell into your role as a mother, I just happened to fall into my role, into someone who was not straight. I wish so much for you to accept me for the way I was, but I guess that could never happen. I wish you wouldn't punish me just for having gay friends, for having long hair, for just being gay. But at least I don't have to worry about you restricting my freedom anymore, because now I am finally free to just be. Even though my action may not speak it. I love you, Mom, and hope that you can learn to forgive me for what I have done. Sincerely, Fahim. The last 5 or 6 weeks he was alive, he had hair like come down to here, and she made him get a haircut. And he did it, and then he cried for like 2 or 3 days, like all the time, like for hours. He would cry because his long hair was gone. And I wasn't like home. I was at work, and I was not spending time with him for him to get his hair cut, or to like defend him or support him. I just sort of pretended the whole thing wasn't happening. Like, I didn't understand. And this is typical. What my brother wrote me is just so typical of what he'd always do for me. Like, this is always protect me, always serve me, always just be like a big brother. I don't think we've ever, dear brother, I don't think that we've ever understood each other. You're logically oriented while I am emotionally oriented. You like computers. I hate computers, except for recreational reasons. And he knew I was going to read this. I am a complicated individual who is spiritually aware of the things around me. To tell you the truth, I'm so spiritually attuned to the other world that I have sidetracked away from the actual world that exists around me. It's part of the reason for why I have done what I have done. The other reason is because I didn't feel that there was a place in the world for me. My mother, my father, and you never tried to understand where I was coming from. And for this reason, I tried to obtain a surrogate family outside the household. I felt trapped in the house, like a prisoner who's not allowed to express their gay identity. By going, I know that I'll be free, be allowed to travel wherever I want to, look that way I want to, grow my hair as much as I want to, and have the kind of friends that I want to have. Sorry for making your life hell. That was never my intention. I do love you. Will always love you. I'll be there for you at your graduation from college, when you get a new car, when you get married, when you have kids, and when anything special happens in your life. I'll also try to be there for you when you go through the difficult periods in your life. Remember, just because you can't see me, doesn't mean I'm not there. Please forgive me for what I have done. Fahim. This is like so... There's an ending, and it's just typical of him to fucking do this. The only thing I can ask of you is not to tell my ex-lover, Tim, that I have died. I'd rather have him live on not knowing. So, like, his last fucking words to me are instructions. A lot of times I feel like he was never even here. And, like, the people who could make him real can't. So, I'm just gonna make sure that when I have my kids, that they know that it's not even their parents that come first, it's their brothers. Since I chose my mom's side at the end, that's something I hardly ever did. Their brothers and sisters are more important than their friends, or their work, or their parents. So, I only have, like, one brother and he's gone, and that's it. So, it's that much more important. Like, my half-sister, I just say is my sister is my sister. So, I don't think I was raised with that. Like, your brother always comes first. Because they always told him to sacrifice, but they never told me to sacrifice. Like, Fahim, sacrifice, sacrifice. So he'd make the damn lunch for me. And he'd take his sandwich and split it in half and give it to me. And then I'd have my sandwich, and I wouldn't even think about sharing it with him. So, this is like all I can do, is share what I have and a few nice stories, and that's all I've got left. So, I'm 22. I'm as old as he was when he died.
I was going to throw away a whole bunch of coat hangers, and I realized that coat hangers can become some sort of art. And I just put this thing together. It took me about 30 minutes, and this is the best I could do within 30 minutes for a man to stand on its own 2 feet. And it took a little bit of time, a little bit of creativity, and I've never done anything like this before in my life, and I did it about 4 weeks ago. And not a lot of people might think it's whack, but it has a face and it has eyes and a mouth. And, you know, if I wanted, I could go ahead and do that over the next 5 minutes. I could take a coat hanger like this, and it's like a hand, you know, that's based on my hand. And this was something that only took 5 minutes. So this is the product of 5 minutes of work, right? My body is the product of 20 or 30 hours, no, of 7 or 8 hours of work a week, right? But this is a product of 5 minutes of all that focus. But basically what I got from working out was focus and discipline. Because in order to have like a bicep, right, looking like that, right, with shoulders and rear deltoids and all this other craziness, you have to know how to focus just one part of your body. And bodybuilding in itself is what I call manufactured. It's not natural. Like, this body is not natural. I build it, I sculpt it. And in nature, it'd be very hard to find, like 100 years ago, it'd be very hard to find a body that looks like this. So you have to go by these magazines that we're now accustomed to as a culture, as what looks good and what looks great, and you sort of decide to form it that way. All the definition. That's basically enough footage. I'm sweating.